please take a moment to greet each other.
Before we open in worship, I would like to introduce one person to you, Reverend Dawn Cooley. She's been with us this weekend from the UUA Southern Region Congregational Life Staff, working with the board of trustees here about change, and now she's gonna dump thoughts about change on all of us. Oh my God, oh my Lord, what will I do? So now we will gather in worship. Welcome, Dawn.
As the kindling of this chalice calls to community, let there be light. As the flame of this chalice reminds us of our values, let there be light. As the hope of this chalice encourages us to hope, let there be light.
And I'd like to invite you to join your hearts and minds in the spirit of worship with these words by Benish Mishra Maseretti. The ground shifts, sometimes slowly, sometimes like an earthquake, reminding us that the solidity we often love and seek is an illusion. The crumbling dust of the desert plains, the moist fertility of farmlands, the eroding coastline of tidal shores, all are changing. Committees dissolve and are created. Leaders retire or step away. Ministers come and go. Bylaws are amended. New experiences lead to new truths, which foster evolution. The natural course of life, always pushing us towards greater understanding of what it means to be. Can we hold the losses back while not holding ourselves? So Yellowstone National Park has changed a lot in the last 25 years. 25 years ago, there were no wolves there. I mean, wolves, who wants wolves, right? They're scary, they howl at night, they kill things, yuck. There hadn't been wolves there for 75 years. But the rangers noticed a problem. The deer, the antelope, the elk, they were getting so many of them that they were getting unhealthy. They didn't have enough food. It wasn't good for them. And, well, their natural predators were wolves. And that would help keep the balance so that they could be healthy as a herd, that the elk. And so they introduced, in 1995, about 8 wolves. And, yeah, the elk did eat. I mean, you know, the elk ate a lot. The wolves did eat a few of the deer and the elk, as they knew they would. What they didn't realize was going to happen was it changed the habits of the deer and the elk. They went up higher in the mountains most of the time because it was safer. They could get trapped in the valleys and in the canyons. What that did, they noticed, was start changing the valleys. More things started growing. Now, change is hard in a very complex world to trace to one thing. So some people would say it happened to be at that time it was a higher rainfall, and that was helpful. But the plants, the trees started growing in the valleys in places where they had stopped growing because of all of the deer and elk eating and trotting on the land. So we got a tree, and it's down here in the valley, and the valley's got some swampy land in it, so I want to put the tree by the swampy land, right? Well, what happens when you have more trees? You get more birds, right? So they start getting more birds, and then they got beavers. Now, there was controversy about the beavers. Did they just show up because there was more trees to chop and eat, or did somebody put them there? I don't know. But you know beavers were heavily hunted all through the 1800s because they made beaver hats. So there weren't any beavers there either. And, so the beavers came to eat things. But as they're eating everything and making dams, they start changing that swampy landscape. So there's deeper pools of water. Well, when you get deeper pools of water, what do you get? Can somebody tell me? What do you think? Fish. Yeah, fish in the water. Great. And what do you think? Turtles, frogs. This is wet. I can't put that in the water, so frogs gonna be here. Turtles, frogs. Well, guess who likes to eat fish? Can you guess who likes to eat fish? Bears. The bears were happy. There were already bears there, but they were happy. They came more often down to the water. And eagles. Eagles love fish. So eagles started coming. Well, as they had more water and more things are growing, meanwhile, the wolves are continuing to eat things, including coyotes. Now, do you know what coyotes eat? Can you guess? No, wolves. No, actually, for some reason, the wolves can get the coyotes. I'm not quite sure why. But they like to eat mostly mice and rabbits. So that was their favorite tender dishes. And so as they ate, there were fewer coyotes, and they ate fewer rabbits. Then we started getting other animals, more. They started to reproduce more because they had more to eat that liked to eat mice and rabbits, like fox and hawks and badgers and weasels. So at the same time, you're having more diversity in animals, You're also having more diversity in plants because they're continuing to grow. You know, there's birds are pooping berries all over the place, seeds, things are growing, it's really great. And you know how when plants grow, they set roots into the ground. And so all the little swampy places that were fed by streams start to have less erosion around the streams. And the streams start finding their banks, and they start getting less meandering and more directed, and they all join together and they start making a mighty river that starts carving deeper in and causing even more fish and more eagles and more things. So together, the plants, the animals, and the very land and water itself changed because of a few changes in the ecosystem. So may we remember when we're looking at change that some things will happen the way we expected, but there'll be many surprises along the way. May it be so.
Let's sing our children out with a song on the inside back cover of the gray hymnal. May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice. As you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
I see this tumbling. Good morning. My name is Sally Winkle, and I'm a worship associate, and it is my pleasure to welcome you here in the sanctuary, and to those of you joining us online this morning. In order to reach a wider community than those able to be physically present on Sunday morning, our services are live streamed on YouTube and Facebook. Joys and concerns, however, are not live streamed or recorded. Before I continue, let me remind you please to silence your cell phones. As Unitarian Universalists, our spiritual paths vary, but in this congregation we have made a covenant together. We affirm our interdependence, celebrate our differences, and work for justice. We deepen our relationships as we create a compassionate, welcoming community, nurture spiritual growth, and act on our values in the broader world. I want to extend a special thank you to visitors worshiping with us this morning. We ask you to wear the paper name tags because it helps us identify you as someone with whom you'd like to speak. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you may find it here. Whether you're new to Unitarian Universalism or visiting from another UU congregation, we invite you to stop by the welcome table after the service to have your questions answered. People become members of this congregation by signing the membership book and supporting the church with their time and finances. If you are considering joining the church, please speak with our assistant minister, Denise Gouch. Following the service, we hope that everyone will enjoy coffee and fellowship in the social area, where you will also find information about current opportunities for engage.org. Check it out. Noah's Mayoral public meeting will be held on July 14th at 3 o'clock at the Greater Bethel. Candidates will be asked to commit at Noah's priorities, including affordable housing and public education. As an indicator of the local strength, Noah aims for a turnout of at least 1,000 people. So fund members are urged to stop by the social justice table for information on Sunday and to sign up to attend. Thank you.
I invite you now to take a deep breath, settle yourselves in your seats, finish arriving here this morning. maybe take a look around and realize you are part of this gathered community. And as you settle in, I invite you to think back over the moments, the hours, the days that have led you here to this moment together with each other. And as you look back, you may see things that you wish to celebrate, or things that have you worried, concerned, sorrows that you bring into this sanctuary. And if you would like to mark any of those with this community, you are welcome to come forward and place a stone in this bowl of water, which represents our gathered community. Our lay minister, Jack Bleak, will help you select a stone and put it in the bowl. If you would like your joy or your concerns spoken aloud to the congregation, there are yellow slips of paper in the pocket in the pew in front of you. If you write legibly, Jack and I will read those aloud to the congregation. You can hand me those slips as you come forward. I also placed a stone in celebration. The privilege, thanks to you, of attending in Spokane, Washington. And it was an amazing gathering of UUs and lots to think about, lots to act on. And I bring back great gratitude for being able to gather. Holding these and all those joys, those sorrows, those concerns that lie unspoken yet in our hearts, let us join together in a spirit of prayer. Love that holds us, that is our source, that persists despite whatever changes in our lives. Help us to be ever more aware of how we are connected to each other as our circumstances change, as our feelings about those circumstances change, as we move through those lives, sometimes gracefully and sometimes not so gracefully. Let us be reminded always of the connections we have here in this community, and let us be empowered to move beyond this community to spread the love and the connections in the world in which we hope to live ever, ever more in love. Amen. Blessed be. May it be so. In just a moment, the ushers will come among you with the offering bowls. If you would, first, you may know that our congregation shares a portion of every offering with an organization that furthers our work, our values beyond the walls of our congregation. This month, the Share the Plate recipient is our own Congregational Trans-Affirming Collective, which does good work both within our walls and beyond them. You can read a little bit more about them in the order of service. So you should note that this is the last Sunday of the month, so it's your last chance to share a little bit extra with them. You can always find directions for giving online in your order of service if you're in the sanctuary. If you're joining us online, you should now go for donation directions to our brand new website, which can be found at firstuunash, firstuunash.org. As always, your generosity, like your presence among us, is received with gratitude.
Our reading this morning is adapted from the work of Gil Rendell of the Alban Institute, and you will find that there is an accompanying diagram in your order of service. Visual aids are good. Rendell posited a roller coaster of change. The roller coaster of change shows a normal, natural, even healthy progression of feelings that we experience in a time of change. And it also shows that the feelings we are experiencing and expressing may offer some indication of how far along we are in accepting and owning a change. Of course, the model is not definitive. It does not include all the feelings someone may experience in a time of change, nor is the sequence of feelings and reactions meant to suggest that there is a clear movement from feeling to feeling in the order listed. It does, however, offer insight into the types and groupings of feelings that will be experienced, and it shows that there is a general sequence of feelings. When a change is first announced, the first response may be one of increased energy and positive feelings. This is a fairly common experience, whether or not the news of the change is anticipated or desired. In the initial announcement, energy raises for a bit. The initial expressions of excitement or relief allow participants to be hopeful that they will be able to march through the change unscathed. But this excitement and raised energy doesn't last. As time passes, people begin to work through more difficult feelings like disorientation, fear, depression, as they realize they will be losing something in the process of change. Energy drops. Then, once the system moves through that and commits itself to the process, energy begins to go back up again, slowly. Now, a group's leaders are in the first car. They experience the roller coaster first, and sometimes they're in a high energy place while the rest of the congregation is in a low energy place, or vice versa. Being aware that the initial enthusiasm will run a natural cycle through some level of anger and depression helps us to be less personally sensitive to criticism that will be leveled at us through the process. We can depersonalize the criticisms, understanding that the shift may be the natural workings of a healthy system seeking stability. The emotional cycle of the congregation as it moves from excitement through depression and on provides simply information. It is important for leaders to identify how they are feeling and how others in the congregation are feeling to help them know what the congregation needs from them next.
So today for our meditation, I am going to suggest that during our quiet time, that we look at this roller coaster of change. And I invite you to think about changes in your own life, maybe something you're going through now, like my dad, who hates change and is well known by all of his friends as the person who never changes, and that's why they like him apparently, moving after 35 years in a home to assisted living. He actually went into the hospital with an anxiety attack a few days ago. So my sister's picking him up at the hospital to bring him down because he's fine. But I'm just saying, we all have change going on in our life one way or the other. So you might want to look at this and think about, what are some of my feelings or thoughts? Where am I on this change and that? Or you might think of some other thing that you've changed and go and think about, have I felt some of these during a whole system of change? So I'm just going to invite you to spend a few moments. Then after we've had our silence and our reflection, I am going to, again, ask you to turn to somebody near you and discuss a little of what your reflection was with each other so you can hear someone else's reflection about change. So let us enter now into the spirit of silence and reflection. are music to my ears. I hate to ask you to stop this conversation, but I invite you to continue talking to each other, whether they're continuing these conversations or to others in the social hall, with that open-ended question. How has change moved in your life, and what has been your reactions to it? May it be so.
I'd like to invite you to turn over your insert, and you'll find the lyrics to Turn, 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 adapted from Ecclesiastes, verse 3. Turn, turn, turn. Please rise in body or in spirit as you're so moved, and join us in the singing. Oh, I wanted to also say this is a song you may have learned through the oral traditions off the radio or off your record player. And so there may be discrepancies in where the rhythm falls or where the melody lies. Sing with gusto. This is congregational singing. It is not about getting it right. Enjoy yourselves. Here we go. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap.
such a joy to be here with you this weekend. Yesterday, I had a lovely time with some of your leadership talking about governance and some of the changes that you have coming up around your congregation in the upcoming years. And this morning, being here with you on this beautiful sunny day reminds me of the last time that I was here. Actually, was a couple of years ago. Those of you who were here may recall that I actually skated on roller skates down the aisle. I don't skate in church very much anymore. Skating in general is something that I have found that in order to protect myself, I'm not healing as fast as I used to, and it's something that I had to give up, a change that I had to go through. And I was reflecting on that during our meditation today, and how difficult it was to give up, and how sad I was, but how I've also filled my life with other things that bring me joy, and how much I enjoy not being bruised and having broken bones. So change is a natural, normal part of life, and I know that this congregation is going through so many changes
Okay,
right
so
now.
I don't want to hear about this. I'm my father's daughter. I don't want to talk about change.
But
I
Gail,
don't like change.
it's a normal, natural part of life. Isn't it? Yeah?
So do any of you like change? No? Oh, thank God, I'm not alone.
Well, you're not alone, but it's normal. It's natural to not like it. It's hard, right? Isn't change hard?
Yeah, it
Can be.
Sometimes it's great, actually.
Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's really hard. How is it hard? What makes change harder? Unknown. Ambiguity. Unknown. Loss. Conflict.
Not knowing how it's going to work out.
Not knowing how it's going to work out. That's right. Not knowing how to do it. There are a lot of reasons change is hard, too, isn't it? Aren't there? And when we resist it, when a change is coming and we resist it, does that make it easier or does that make it more difficult? It makes it more difficult. That's right. Homeostasis is the state of resisting change. And we see this a lot in congregations. It's something that the Southern region teaches in all of our leadership experiences that we do. And we tell people that congregations will fight influences that produce a change unless things have become painfully intolerable. Right? The only time congregations generally embrace change is when change has become painfully intolerable. Do you see some of the ways that that's influencing your conversations around the building or conversations around governance? It may not be painfully intolerable. You have a lovely sculpture that you maintain, right? It's beautiful. But it's not working for you the way it was, right? And you can see painful intolerability right down the road. We fight change a lot of times because we are afraid. Gail, I'm wondering, are there some things in the upcoming changes between, your retirement and the building and the governance and anything else that I don't know of? Are there some changes, things that you're maybe a little worried about?
Well, we've tried some of this before and it didn't work.
It didn't work?
No, it was a disaster, a failure.
A failure.
Very, very depressing.
Yeah, that makes it hard, doesn't it? What are some of the things that you all might be afraid of in the coming years and months as this congregation goes through changes? Dilution? Loss of members? Loss of what was that? Oh, potential for loss of friendships. Ooh, that's a rough one.
Yeah.
That's right. There's a lot to be afraid of. And there's one word that keeps coming up over and over as we discuss change. And I would like to honor that you all brought it up before I did, and that is loss. Change means loss. You're afraid that you will lose your church how it is now, the church that you love. And you know what? You will. It'll change. The old ways of getting things done will not work as much. The old building, the beloved minister, it'll all be different, and you will grieve. You will. This is that downward slope on the roller coaster of change that Rendell talks about. And it's normal and it's natural, and it doesn't mean we need to take things personally when we recognize that someone else is on that downward slope as well. Right? But at some point, you hit that bottom and you decide to either stick to it or you decide to leave. Right? And the people who decide to stick to it will turn around and they'll go back up on the upward slope, and there will be energy, and there will be ideas, and there will be hope, and there will be enthusiasm, and there will be people, and there will be money, and there will be all sorts of wonderful, exciting new things happening. Right? Because you only need 20% of people in a congregation to have critical mass to make a change unstoppable. Right? You're not going to get stuck on the bottom. You're not going to get stuck on that downward slope. You will make it through, and you will climb back up again. Nashville has changed a lot. Gail was telling me your community has changed, your traffic pattern has changed, your families have changed. Someone was telling me that you add 50,000 new people to the Nashville metro area each year. 50,000 people. That's a lot of change, right? And the reality is that's part of life. As our reading demonstrated, all living things grow and change and evolve. I loved Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower series. I understand you all are familiar with it a little bit, some of you?
Yeah.
Have you read? Okay. Some of you, great. So in that, the writer Octavia Butler posits that change is God because it is the only thing that never goes away. Right? It is the only constant. Therefore, it is the divine. Congregations are alive, and this means congregations change too. Living things are interdependent, as we heard in our moment for all ages, and all of this change around you, whether it's in your community or your congregation, means you're going to be changed too. And it'll be unstoppable. Because out of this loss that you will be experiencing, you're also going to be building something new. And not just something new, but here at Fun, you're going to be building something that is the foundation are the values that you have now. So yes, there will be new, but there will be pieces of the old as well. What are some of the values? Gail, what do you think? What are some of the values that Fun is providing now that y'all might build on in the years and months to come?
Well, I don't know if we already have it. We have some diversity, like in the story, where people influence each other. We have diversity of theological views, for instance. That's a value.
That is a value. I'd like to invite you, you should have gotten a sticky note with your order of service. I would like to invite you to write a value that you think this congregation upholds or embodies, or an ideal that is dear to you, that you think will help form the foundation of these new changes, of the way that you're developing over the next few years.
And raise your hand if you need a sticky note, because we do have them. If anybody else wants them. And it could be a value you're looking for here if you're not here before.
That's right. Something that you'll be bringing forward, and Denise will be collecting them for us.
Oh, well, let's wait
in a minute
for people to read them if they want, and then we can collect them.
If you would like to, would you like to share what you wrote down on the note card?
Yeah, I'm going to go. Sally and I'll come around with mics and just tell us a word. Yeah. Here. Conversation.
Conversation. Love it.
Acceptance.
Acceptance.
Community.
Community.
Welcoming.
Welcoming.
Easy friendships.
Friendships.
I didn't hear that.
Easy friendship.
Easy healthy friendships.
Social justice.
Social justice.
First-class creative music.
Lots of that. Good. Here.
Perspective.
Perspective. Oh, here.
Resolution from prior congregational trauma over polarization around 1980.
Healing, I guess, might be a good word to add to that.
Healing.
Healing. Yeah.
Our progressive attitude.
These are lovely.
Bill has one.
Open-mindedness. Solidarity.
Love of the natural world.
Love of the natural world.
See, another widely held one.
These are so lovely. Oh my goodness. I didn't know it would be so rich.
Oh, of course it
Good
is.
job.
This is a fabulous congregation. And then, yes, if we would love to capture this so that we have a basket in the back, or if you want to just give it to me or Dawn or anybody, Denise, we'll gather them together so after the service. Thank you.
And the nice thing about writing it down is we'll be able to use them as a reminder, right? So when you're struggling with the changes, when you're struggling with how different things feel, or you're afraid, or you're nervous, or you're anxious, you can go back to those values, because guess what? None of those are going to change, right? Those aren't going to, your friendships, you're still going to have friends here, and you're still going to value diversity, and you're still going to love one another, and you're still going to work for the environment, and you're still going to want to listen to multiple perspectives. These are all things that you will take forward into this future that you build.
And as a beloved community, we are going to walk together every step away on this and support each other during these changes when we're feeling rotten about it and when we're feeling excited about it.
That's right. So I want to leave you with one more way to be as okay as possible, right? As healthy as possible as you go through all of these changes. Ed Friedman says change is inevitable, but misery is not. Right? And he says that one way to deal with loss that's involved in change is to be a part of the creation of something new. Right? And you don't know what that newness is going to look like yet, do you? Just like they didn't know when they introduced the wolves into Yellowstone what was going to happen. Right? We don't know what's going to happen. William Bridges says that there are 3 stages to change: letting go, the confusion in the in-between, and then beginning new. Now, which stage do you think most people want to start at? Number 3, right? We don't want to let go, and we don't want the confusion of in-between. We want to begin something new. But we really need to acknowledge and go through all of the stages, all of the ups, all of the downs. The energy needs to go down, and then we need to recommit, and the energy goes back up. And we're not all going to be in the same place at the same time. As the Gil Rendell reading indicated, often leaders are in that front car on the roller coaster and maybe just a few steps ahead. So for those of you who are in leadership, be patient and understand that they're coming. They just might be a little bit behind you. Change is difficult, and change is scary, and change is exciting, and change holds potential. And if a seed stayed a seed and never changed, it would never grow into a tree or a plant or a flower. I wish you all the blessings in your upcoming changes. And I know, having talked to your leadership and some of you, your minister as well, that you're ready for it, that your community is changing, and that you know that you will need to be changing too. And so I bless you all in this upcoming change.
I'd like to invite you all to join me in singing one of my favorite hymns, if I may say so. Number 148, Soon the Day Will Arrive, Bashana Haba'ah. Number 146 in the gray hymnal, please rise rise in body or in spirit and join in the singing. Soon the day will arrive when we will be together and no longer will we live in fear. And the children will smile without wonder and doubt. On this day, thunder clouds will appear. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share.
Please join me in reciting the words found at the bottom of your order of service. We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our benediction this morning comes from the parable of the sower by Octavia Butler. God is change, and in the end, God prevails. But meanwhile, kindness eases change. Love quiets fear. And a sweet and powerful positive obsession blunts pain, diverts rage, and engages each of us in the greatest, the most intense of our chosen struggles. The service is over. Let our service begin anew.